Glad to have you back. This is Talk Time. President Buhari's first 100 days in office has been with a lot of hope and excitement. His supporters point to a number of achievements: improved power supply, refineries coming back to life, the EFCC biting again, and respect for Nigeria in the international community. But the opponents are quick to point out that these are actually the results of the works of the previous administration. They actually accuse the anti-corruption agencies of selective investigation and prosecution. And with me to assess the president's first 100 days in office is a journalist, Ni Akinshiju. Glad to have you join us this morning. Well, the first 100 days in office was actually coined by a former U.S. President, Franklin D. Roosevelt. That was in June 24, 1933, in a radio address to his countrymen. And it has since gained global currency, as it were. I'd want to start by asking you, 100 days, should there really be 100 days? I mean,
politicians will naturally play to the gallery, and there's always a need for a milestone to do that. 100 days usually should not provide any reason for celebration, because it's actually a period for studies, consideration, and evaluation of what the officer in office, had met in office. And perhaps if he's going to relate with his constituents, perhaps he wants to talk about the challenges and opportunities he had obviously seen from the handover notes and other files that he had read. You don't expect specific deliveries on 100 days. But as it were, for developing political environment like ours, there is a need for politicians and office holders to constantly throw things at the constituents so that they have something to keep chewing. Not materially now, but yes, something to talk about. Oh, but this person, of course, our political engagements are usually hostile. So at the end of the day, whoever wins still wants to go on that fast pace of impression. Now, what constitutes that impression is another matter entirely. The ingredients of the impression is another matter entirely. But there's a need for people to continue to say, oh, the person we voted for had done this, and he had done this, and built confidence over time. That's why some people think, some officials will think 100 days have been very important. But in the case of President Buhari, he had declared ever before he was sworn in that the challenges confronting Nigeria is beyond the 100 days mystery. It was a clear definition of his focus, that there's nothing you could possibly do, and he highlighted some of the challenges, the Boko Haram, the economic slide, and a number of other factors. And the truth of the matter is that if you have a character that understands what is coming to confront and engage with in office, it is such character that will tell you, hey guys, can we step down on these 100-day things that has become a vogue? It's just a vogue, even if you have all the money in this world, you cannot lay the foundation, the material foundation for anything within 100 days, But we are even talking that, all right, in the last 100 days, as it were, I am now leaving the impossibilities of the 100 days to the possibilities.
All right. Before you go on with the possibilities, at Chatham House in February, the president said he will prioritize, I'm quoting him, the fight against corruption. Yeah. The fight against corruption. And then he talked about insecurity and then unemployment. I'll give you a quote from him. In the face of dwindling revenues, a good place to start the repositioning of Nigeria's economy is to swiftly tackle two ills that have ballooned under the present, of course, the past administration, talking about the President Goodluck Jonathan, waste and corruption.
Good.
On those bases, within the 100 days, can we say that he has launched out, he's done something tangible, something we can hold on to, something that the people can chew, like you said?
Yeah, I think it's obvious. The truth of the matter is that over the past so many years, and we can start from the 10%ers of the 60s, up to the 100%ers of recent years, the truth of the matter is corruption had defined the national character of the country Nigeria, you know. And some observers and analysts had actually proposed that a mere 60% reduction in the corruption profile of Nigeria will boost our productivity by more than 80%. You know, so there is an inverse relationship between corruption and productivity. So even if, and we all also agree that policies and constitutional provisions are not the problems with Nigeria, but the tendency to corrupt the process of deliveries, either productivity, I mean, in terms of production or service delivery, had always been the problem with us. So if we have a government that made corruption the premium of its policy, for God's sake, that is where the direction is. And in these last 100 days, it is obvious that the president had made such engagement. The recent is the declaration, the public, making public is declaration of assets. Because it's one thing to declare your assets. It's another thing to make it public. When you make it public, what it does is that it gives you, your constituents, a template to relate with 4 years after. It is not for now. It is, okay, this is what you have declared yourself. Okay, first, if you have shares in some other companies and you didn't declare, perhaps some people are in the know or have knowledge of such, and they can now say, hey, you have shares somewhere, you have not declared. You know, and to that extent, it is...
you're not lying. You're not holding up to your oath.
To your oath, you know. So that's one. Then 2, 4 years down the line, you were 30 million naira, as the president had said, under 30 million naira in your account. You had that in your account. 4 years down the line, how much do you have? In consideration of how your earnings and allowances during your 4 years period. So there's a basis for comparison. How have you fared? Have you gone beyond your official earnings during this period? So what that does is to say, look, if this person is most likely this person had engaged in corrupt activities in the last 4 years because his standard of his wealth status, standard of living, and outlook are quite different now. There is a big difference between when it was sworn in and his exit from office. So it creates the publicity. I mean, making public is the asset declaration creates confidence and an atmosphere of trust. You know, and that is where we need to begin, because we also know that leadership is the issue. Leadership must marshal whatever against corruption. So to the fact that he has been able to do that, and he has also not compelled, I mean, the vice president had actually fallen in line to do that. We now expect state governors, because the federal government had led, you know, in terms of ideological...
ministers, when they come on board.
Yes, when they come on board.
He said he would try to ask them to do that.
Yeah.
All right, Nii, you will definitely have opponents. It's part of the game. Yeah, you can't take it out of the equation. All right, well, I have something here that some people, you have hashtag 100 wasted days and hashtag 100 failed promises. Some people are of the opinion that all the talk about corruption, we're still talking about corruption, we'll talk about corruption are on the pages of the papers, that until and when they see maybe one behind bars.
There will be opponents. And there are opponents. And unfortunately, the opponents I have analyzed are a new generation of a number of people that are determined, you know, to throw mud, you know, at the integrity profile of the person that is leading corruption, the corruption charge, you know. And I'm saying this because you can actually outline deliberate efforts by a number of people that said, okay, we are in opposition. But this opposition is not about engagement. It is about finding faults. I call it fault finders, you know. And, well, the spokesperson to the president had also qualified some as willing wailers, you know. But the truth of the matter is, this opposition has turned opposition into a comedy. Because when you are in opposition, you are supposed to review positive and the negative and comment as it were. It is not that constantly you are engaging negatively. When you constantly engage negative, what happens is that the people in your immediate constituency over time see you as unserious, because it is expected, oh, you won't see anything good in this policy. You won't see anything good in this government. You are always looking out for things that will run down the government. That's not opposition, you know. It's a derision that has no limitation. And once you are engaged in derision that has no limitation, nobody who is serious-minded engages you.
Neo, let's get out of corruption. Let's look at Boko Haram. The Northeast, people have been dying. Things have been happening there. What do you think about his 100 days in office as regards Boko Haram? I have here renewed vigor in the war against Boko Haram. Do you think that holds true?
We have seen that. It's obvious, you know. Boko Haram festered and had its roots, you know, properly germinated over a period of 6 years, you know. And when you also have a terrorist group taking over geographical space of an independent entity, it tells you the kind of capacity such group are developed over time. And capacity is important here. We should understand it. When a group of people starts infiltrating, taking over a geographical space within a sovereign nation, and at the point in time we're even ready to declare an Islamic state within what they have taken over.
Yeah.
Now and you had that in 6 years. Within 100 days, of course, in the last days of the exited government, you saw some actions, you know. But again, some of us had gone beyond that to also research what actually was the shape of that action, you know. We saw a multinational joint task force, you know, of Chad, Niger Republic, Cameroon, Nigeria, and the Benin Republic, you know. There was a time Chad took over, flushed out Boko Haram from some of the geographical space in Nigeria. But unfortunately, they complained that the Nigerian government was not willing to take over those territories and occupy them with their forces. Over a period of time, they had to withdraw, you know. And the news there was that, oh, they have been flushed out of about 12 local governments and all that. But we are just hearing now that places, strategic border town like Gamburu, you know, has just been taken over. And that Dikwe has just been taken over. About 5 other strategic towns have been taken over. We also got to understand that in one of the local government or the towns that were taken over by Boko Haram, they had transformed the College of Education there to their the laboratory in the College of Education to their bomb-making factory. Now, that's what you allow. When you allow insurgency to take space, they have operational units. They can create things within that operational unit and then from there fork out and do whatever they need to do. But as it were, we have seen a new chief of army staff that is leading the army in the field, you know, that is actively engaged with his people. And it is not as if new equipment had come. Whoever is saying the Nigerian army had received a new delivery of new equipment is lying. It is simply that the morality of the men on the field has been boosted. You saw a whole major general, chief of army staff going on the field to serve his troop. That is what the military needs.
Even doing press-ups.
Doing press-ups, you know, he walked 10 miles with them, 10 kilometers with his troop. Now, the psychology of the average man average man or woman in the military is that when he has the order, do something, he's not taking that order verbally. He's connecting with the psychology of the superiority.
I won't forget a story I read in a book where soldiers were in a war front and they were just got about 3 of them or so at a place and they were lifting up something.
Yeah.
And there was a commander there sitting down and they lifted to a point where their strength could carry them.
Yeah.
They couldn't go further. it comes down crashing. They did it 1, 2. Then the President of the United States, one of the presidents, came around wearing a pullover and with a hat. Nobody knew him. He was just standing by. At the third time, when they just got to the point where it was going to go down again. Meanwhile, their commander was there saying, "Go carry that thing up, take it up, take it up." And he wasn't lending a hand.
Yeah.
As a leader.
Yeah.
What the president did this time around was, when they got to that point where it was going to go down, he just ran in, put a little finger,
Just in.
and the thing went up. And that's talking about the fact that people want to connect
with
you.
the leadership.
All right. Appreciable improvement in power supply in various parts of the country. The president has come out to say, I didn't do anything really there. In fact, I was listening to one young man on TV say, the president hasn't made any investment in the power sector. What has happened? I am having light, steady.
Same here.
I have not spent money on both the small and the big gensets.
Good.
That's quite a lot of savings.
Yeah.
What has happened?
What has happened? What has happened is that there is more supply of gas. Simple. Even before the exit of President Jonathan.
Why wasn't there more supply before?
Sabotage. The pipelines were sabotaged. And we were reading news about that, you know. Well, but what you should also know is that in the last 6 months of the Jonathan's administration, there was so much news of sabotage of the pipelines, both gas and crude oil. So you hardly read newspapers every day and you won't see such news.
But that seems to have petered out now.
It would. Because you are dealing with a man who can engage. And there are moves already, I may not make it public, you know. There are moves already to limit the capacity of those gentlemen that were behind all this. And it would also, I mean, would it surprise you that all these gentlemen that were in the public space at that time and would verbally assault government are no longer doing that? We know them. It's public, you know. And some of them were also given contracts to protect the pipelines. But we also know that the reason for that pipeline's protection will not be appropriate if there were no such cases of sabotage at that period.
So by and large, because in some quarters, the talk has been that it's the body language of the man in power that seems to have turned the tide concerning the power sector.
It goes beyond the body language. I know that the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Power was at the Aso Rock Villa for a meeting or briefing session with the president. And after the briefing, he said clearly that the president made the supply and the sustained supplies of power, increased sustained supplies of power, gave a presidential order on it. And that they also were now relating as a team, that the Ministry of Power and the NNPC, which controls the pipelines across Nigeria, were now engaged with the Ministry of Power. Because the Ministry of Power has control over infrastructure, but they don't have control over pipelines. So there is a need for collaboration.
A synergy now.
A synergy between the Ministry of Power that controls the infrastructure. And the truth of the matter is, if in the 8 years of an Obasanjo's regime, you had more than $16 billion spent on IPPs, power generation plants all over. Up till now, we don't know how much had been spent by the last administration, but some people had placed it at around $12 billion. You expect that, even no matter how horrible or horrendous the corruption would be, you know, that you see some results, you know, you see some infrastructures put in place. But at that time, what we have been hearing is that gas had not been supplied to power these thermal plants.
So what you're saying is that the president actually has a hand in this. He's been doing something. It's not just like...
No, it's not all those things about body language. No. There was a direct order. It's a presidential order. The president don't need to take bolts and spanner to the field.
He doesn't need to. Okay, I'll just hold your thoughts there. We now take a look at what Nigerians are saying about President Buhari's 100 days in office. And after that, we will come back and we will continue talking about his 100 days in office here in the studio. Stay with us.
Buhari has performed a wonderful thing. One, he has tried to break the bottleneck to most of the difficulties you find on the economy. And secondly, the man has tried in order to make sure that he curbs all the saboteurs to the economy in oil sector and then in other downstream as well.
To me, as far as I'm concerned, the issue of 100 days is nothing to write in the matter. What do you mean by 100 days? Out of 4 years, 100 days is just a minor days out of 4 years. Although so far so good, he's doing well. Although he's a human being, he's bound to be criticized, which is normal. But so far so good, he's doing well. The issue of appointing somebody maybe from north alone or from one side alone, that is tribalism. You have to ignore tribalism. Forget we are all Nigerians.
He's trying very well that now we can have light for some time. I know for a period of hours before they took off the light. Not like before that we can stay without light for days.
You see, because before you build a house, ordinarily you start with the foundation. There mustn't be a big achievement. It's people that are setting days. He has 4 years to spend. So within the little time he has done, his name alone has he started here into people, institutions and whatever. So I think he has done so far within the first 100 days.
It's still a buzz on the motion. We cannot really say much about it yet.
I believe we should give him more time before we can actually judge him or rate him.
So far, I think there has been improvement in the power sector, but I still feel there are many things more to do. But I still feel we need to be patient to still see how far it can go.
All the money that was being looted out, it has refunded a little from those Kaba people, and I'm still looking concerning the way of people raising subsidy in the time of in the presence of Jonathan's regime. It has never go into that aspect, which is very bad.
What we just need for Buhari is for him to just like sit up and be more active. Because of now, I've not seen any. Some people say there's improvement in light. Yes, there's an improvement in light, but he has not invested anything into the Ministry of Power.
My own area, there's been a tremendous improvement in the power sector. His 100 days in office, I give him an A. I give him an A.
Still the breakfast show. We've been talking about President Muhammadu Buhari's first 100 days in office. Most state governors also marked their first 100 days over the weekend. We'll also be taking a look at some of those state governors across the land. I still have in the studio here with me Ni Akinsuju, who is at my right, far right. And then I have immediate right, I have Tunde Bramo, Honorable Tunde Bramo, a member of the State House Assembly, who before you joined us, we were talking about Buhari's 100 days in office. Before we just tilt over to talk about the governors, what do you make of his? I was telling me that 100 days, what can you achieve in 100 days? Maybe he's just playing around with days. What do you make of the 100 days and what he has been able to do?
Well, thank you. Well, we give glory to God, and we are having an era of the awakening of Nigeria. It's a beginning, it's the dawn of a new era for Nigeria. We thank God that the president has come, is seen, and by the grace of God is very likely to conquer. The truth of the matter is that 100 days, like I've said, is quite not ample enough for anybody to make a remarkable show. And then the truth is that there must be a kind of indication, a kind of roadmap, kind of work plan, a kind of intention to be deciphered by Nigerians in the attitude and the body language of the president. And I think that is positive. So far, so good. Very, very positive. It's so heartwarming that the president has indicated that he's here for business and not business as usual. It's a business of change, like he professed before he became elected, and he's doing just that. I will not go into the specifics yet, but let's just look into the general. Generally, what the man said, because some people want to be mischievous, and they want a miraculous tenet to be interpreted into what the party and the president promised before election. People are expecting Buhari not to be a performer, but to be a miracle worker. The truth of the matter is that the man said he was going to perform, not that he was going to perform miracles. He was going to perform in administration and governance. He said in Chatham House that people expected too much of him. People were emotional. People were even crying and, raising all sorts of emotions, even at campaign grounds and all of that. And people said so many things to make sure that he got into office. But the decision himself, from that point, without being elected yet, from overzealous campaign materials and slogans, he said he was not promising heaven and earth. But what he was promising was that he was going to review and revise the entire superstructure of Nigeria. He was going to replace the pillars and the frames of administration, such that privileges, leakages, wastages will be averted as much as possible. When this is done, of course, the roller coaster effect is that there will be more to go around for the generality of the people.
All right, that's the president. Let's also delve into the state governor's knee. Maybe we should begin. They say charity begins at home. I think I'm correct in saying that. So let's begin with Akinwumi Ambode.
Yeah.
What can you say about his 100 days in office?
Super. And beyond body languages.
How would you say that?
No, you could see Ron, an experienced administrator, by some of the moves he had made, recalibrating the whole civil service structure. Saw movements of staff, of personnel across departments, mergers of departments, Now, when an administrator starts doing that, there's a focus on lenience, on mobility, of the civil service. And that eventually affects the deliveries or deliverables of the civil service. Of late, I heard that he had stopped LASMA, from taking over vehicles, physically. That the preference, and which is the civilized things all over the world, is to book traffic offenders.
That calls to mind what happened recently. I don't know whether you're aware of it, whether you watched it on our TV station, where that wasn't LASMA.
Yeah.
Road safety officials were struggling with that.
You don't do that. You don't need to take physical possession of vehicles. What you do is to book. Because whatever, 10 years down the line at the worst, that person will need something to do, to be done at your agency. It is then that you look at your records and say, hey, gentlemen, you were booked so many years ago at this much. And there's an interest to it. You've generated so much interest.
Do you even have to wait for 10 years if you have data?
No, what I'm saying, okay. The person, no matter what, would have business to do at that agency. If you book somebody for driving against traffic, and you have your data already.
All right, I'll ask you to just hold it a little while. We'll have a caller. Ogaba is calling in. Yes, let's hear what you have to say. Ogaba Dede, did I hear that?
Hello,
Ogaba from Benue State. Good, go on.
Okay, regards to your guest in the studios. I want us to look at something that we have not been. I'll draw attention to something that we have not been talking about. There are some group of people in Nigeria who call this country their own. They call themselves the owner of Nigeria, the owners of Nigeria. These people are the retired this, retired that, retired this. Their activity is that they see this country as their cash cow.
Ogaba,
they see this country as their ATM. And so, you are sure that in a situation like this, they will definitely be fighting back. And this is exactly what is happening now. So for the president to be able to have even contained these people in this first 100 days is a big achievement. And if Nigerians saw something in this president before they voted for him. The question is that, has he deviated from what Nigerians saw in him, or is he on track? The answer is he is on track. What Nigerians saw in the president before they voted for him is intact, and we're happy about it. Have a nice day, and God bless Nigeria.
Thank you very much. God bless Nigeria indeed. Speak well of your nation. And please, if you're going to call in, if you're watching, do me a favor. Ogaba couldn't hear me. Just turn down the volume. Don't listen to yourself. Just say what you have to say, but don't listen to yourself on the TV. Turn down the volume on your TV set so that won't have interference in the studio. I had to remind you of that. Thank you for calling in once again, Ogaba. Yes, let me come to you today. We're talking about the state governor. Charity begins at home. That's your area. I mean, you're an honorable here in Lagos. What do you think of his administration so far? 100 days in office. Can you remember it?
Well, to God be the glory once again. It's gratifying and very, very, very pleasant to observe the strides, giant strides that Mr. Akinwambode, Governor of Lagos State, has taken since assumption of office. He hit the ground running. He had his roadmap clear. So he's not in any way confused as to which way to go. He has marked plans to have, like he said, to restructure his administration. Some ministries, key ministries are merged, some are dispensed to it, and some are actually re-strategized for better focus. He has brought in Ministry of Wealth Creation, which means a lot. We are not alleviating poverty anymore. We are creating wealth. It's shameful that we are battling with poverty when we are not. We have to be on top of the game, and not now. Lagos is getting on top of the game.
It's being proactive.
Proactive. Thank you.
Fighting poverty.
Thank you. It's creating wealth.
You create what will fight poverty.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that clarification. And again, the Overseas Investment Office, the Lagos Global Office, is another positive step. If you know the volume of transaction that's happened within Nigeria and the diaspora in terms of remittance of funds, we will know that it's worth for a commercial capital like Lagos to take keen interest in that. This has done, again, is putting the frames in place, and I'm sure by the time the cabinet is formed and the government takes off full throttle, that we will know that we will begin to realize the effects of some of these things that appear to be absorbed and academic now.
Good. Ni, I'm sure they are listening. Going forward, before I take you to, maybe you not know, take you to Kaduna State where, not even Kaduna State, Kwankwaso Kano State, where his deputy took over. And he was talking, I was listening on was it radio or TV the other day, he was talking about trying to do the same thing that the government, that the center talked about, block leakages. Looks like that's what quite a lot of them seem to be concentrating on.
No, the truth of the matter is the federal government is leading the charge. And it's natural that despite our diversity, there's a tendency for the constituting states of the federation to look up to the federal as a father figure and tend to follow whatever the characterization of the federal government. A case in mind is the Treasury Single Accounts. The Treasury Single Account is no stranger to policies in Nigeria. In fact, it was first talked about as late as 2011. But became an actual pursuing policy of government by 2013. But what was lacking was willpower, because before then, if we're talking of corruption in Nigeria, the former central bank governor, who is now Emir of Kano, had said that the basic problem with Nigeria is that there is vested interest in anything we are doing, either policy-wise or infrastructure. So it is only in Nigeria that we will do law, we would inaugurate laws and have people that will benefit from the law.
Okay, that's what you mean by vested interest.
Vested interest. Okay, if you are going to build a 30 kilometers road, in the bidding process, you have built in interest, either the interest of the person that will win the bid eventually, the interest of people that will benefit in terms of commissions and all that, in the pricing template and all that. That has been the major problem for Nigeria. So now the father figure at the federal level had said, look, this single treasury, single account must come to pass. And while we've been dilly-dallying on it for the past 2 years, within these 100 days, all banks, all commercial banks, made it a point of duty to clear off anything that has to do with federal government accounts in their books. It is as clean as that. And they are now reporting that, okay, up to this period, we had so much government account with us, but now we have dispensed of them. And that is what Akinwumi Ambode, the governor of Lagos State, had adopted. Governor of Kano had adopted. Kaduna had adopted. And I'm very sure we keep hearing that. When you do that, it shows clearly that you are good, or rather the indication is that you will eventually block leakages. It's just normal.
Again, I have to ask you to hold your thoughts there. We're going to get back. I have Chinedu calling all the way from Cameroon. Chinedu, don't forget to turn down the volume on your TV set. Yes, go ahead. Hello, Chinedu.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning to you, Chinedu. Go on.
My contribution is that, yes, my contribution is this.
Go.
Yes, Nigeria, we're talking about corruption, fighting corruption. Please, I want to suggest that the problem we have in this country is from the state government. We should start working on the state government. State government, we need practical in Nigeria today. All we need in Nigeria is practical. To work practical in Nigeria. When you are talking of corruption, you have to work practical in Nigeria. What I'm trying to say is that whoever a leader will be a leader who will come out. You shouldn't be in the office and you'll be a leader. You won't be a leader when you're in the office. So when you're talking of corruption, Buhari needs, if he should work, if he don't want what happened to good luck to happen to him, we should select people that will work for him, and they should come out, not to remain in the office and work. They should be a leader and come out. A leader is to come out. A leader is to come out and work, not to remain in the office. All the promises they made, they should start implementing. Not people telling people grammar and all these things there. It's not what Nigeria needs now. They should come out and work with the program, conference, what the decision of the conference and whatever they have gathered, they hand over. You should be working with it.
All right, thank you very much, Chinedu. You made your point. They should come out and work. Don't just don't just let your policies be on the pages of the papers. I'll take you back, Tunde, to what I have here: cleanup of the messy NNPC. Within the first 100 days, has something been done in that area, NNPC?
Great. Yes, the president deserves kudos for his courage, because government is not run by sentiment, but by courage. The president has demonstrated his competence and integrity, and also the capacity to deliver by taking the bulls by the horn. And again, I think he has indicated interest in being the Minister of Petroleum for some time. He's going to head that area for some time by himself. Such that because he has the experience, that's what it takes.
He does have the experience.
He's been Minister of Petroleum before. He's headed the PTDF before. So he has what it takes to restructure and organize that place to present the focus that we require in Nigeria. And the president has done that much. He has restructured the organization of that corporation into two places: one marketing, one administration. So it's not fused together, whereby the marketer is the administrator anymore. When you are into, you have confused and confounded interest. There's collision of interest. You are the one to select. You are the one to sell at the same time. So these have been cleavage into two
separate entities
now. And also the fact that look at, for example, he was able to do the bailout for the state from the liquefied natural gas account. Some of these things would have been possible. Why not? Because of his experience. These things have been there all along. People did not even know what it takes to do what is necessary.
And let me quickly add that because the reorganization of the NNPC is a major bulwark in whatever we are doing in terms of economic regeneration.
That's the goose that lays the golden eggs. Exactly. For Nigeria.
Exactly. So, if the NNPC is sick, the Nigerian economy will be sick. And a major challenge until the exit of the last administration was the theft of crude oil. And you had a headache that had to do with 430,000 barrels of crude oil disappearing every day. And it's curious because it was as if a template for theft was actually established, where you every day, and it was reported every day that more than 430,000. It's as if there is a meter that those crude oil thieves take to measure their 430. So what that tells you, of course, is official engagement too in that theft, in the thieving. An insider. Exactly. Now, the new MD had said that had reduced. We now also see a reduction in the busting of crude pipelines, and that he is now actually going to deploy drones, to monitor the Nigerian pipelines, and that they will also engage communities around the pipeline areas to also monitor the pipelines. So to a large extent, it's saying, give me 8 months, I will reduce crude oil theft to the barest minimum. So it tells you that there's an active engagement by the new NNPC, where we had a laid back. At a point in time in the last administration, crude oil production went down as low as 800,000 barrels from our 2.3 million barrels quota a day. So it tells you how bad the situation was. How bad it really was. And Niyi, again, I have to ask you to hold your thoughts there. Mohammed from Niger, please don't forget to turn down the volume on your TV set. Mohammed, go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Oh, sir.
Good morning. Go ahead.
Yes, I really want to advise the Nigerians. The President cannot do the work of even the Vice President. We need to work together, all Nigerians, so that we can develop our country.
All right. It's a pity we lost Mohammed there. Please, I will urge you, thank you for calling in, but do me a favor and turn down the volume on your TV set because of interference into our studios here. All right. Maybe we should talk more on that. Maybe I should let you go on and land on NNPC. Then we'll look at some other, or have you landed on NNPC?
Yeah. So but the biggest stride so far is rejuvenation and the restreaming of the refineries.
I think the president has constantly affirmed that I am not going to take away subsidies. He is constantly affirmed that the problem is not with the subsidies. The problem is with our refineries not working.
Yeah.
His concentration is get the refineries working, and then things will...
The subsidy will be phased in the first instance.
Yes.
The subsidy will not be necessary because once importation drops, so why on earth, how can we explain that? What kind of economics are we playing in Nigeria? That you have to, extract the crude from here, export it abroad, and bring it back as refined.
That was always
the scandal about it is that by now we've started saving $38 million every day, and that's according to NNPC, from the cancellation of the offshore processing agreement and the swap
$38 million
every day. Now, what that tells you is that there are two templates for bringing in refining products into Nigeria. You had the marketers templates, where you give marketers guaranteed government backing, go and bring fuel. They bring just one line of fuel, PMS, into the country. And the subsidy that we pay for is actually for transportation. It is not, the costs are supposed to be the same thing if you produce, in fact, cheaper. If we produce in Nigeria, it's cheaper. But what we pay for really is transportation, transporting them, and the margin of profit for the marketer, you know. That's one. But before then, in lieu of importation of fuel, you had the offshore agreement, the processing agreement, where what we call the national feedstock. And the national feedstock is a feedstock of about 450,000 barrels every day that goes into our refineries, local refineries here. Later, it will mean that that was supposed to go into our local refineries. But because our refineries were not functional, they now had to sign this agreement, take that national feedstock to offshore refinery or refineries, you know, and those ones will now give us refined products. Now, when you do that, you don't need to pay extra for the cost of refining. What you do is to pay for the cost of delivery. But it turned out that nobody was talking about these 445,000 barrels every day. Nobody was talking about
430
barrels.
Like you said, yeah.
You know, 430, 45. It's supposed to, because the total capacity for our refineries in Nigeria is 445,000 barrels.
Okay.
So they took that as a whole and give it out to whoever refineries, so-called refineries outside Nigeria. But we don't get to see the products again. We don't get to see the sales cost again. But thankfully now that had been cancelled, it is now back into our system. We can actually track, okay, these 445,000, even if we are not refining them, we will sell them. Though we are not supposed to sell because it will go beyond our NNPC, our OPEC quota.
Okay,
you know?
okay.
So what we have now is that by last week, Wednesday, we have a total 5 million litre being refined into our system.
Okay, and then it looks again like the other day I just got information that in port, those areas, illegal refineries were really located, and there are some burnt, you know, and some were even bold. They ran. Some were bold to come back and bribe the officials who were discovering these refineries with 600,000 naira. Can you imagine the audacity of returning to bribe them? That was when they were arrested and taken away. I mean, can you imagine that audacity?
Yeah, because that happens because it's a matter of norms and value system. The value system of Nigerians has been depraved to the extent that we believe that might is right. And we are almost getting to the obesity state of nature, where you believe that whatever you can grab, you can just grip whatever you can grab.
And walk away with it.
And that's at that level. At the level, do you know what's happening around the Ikorodu area, in the Shower area? Up to last week, Areko, Ikorodu, where they killed some policemen mercilessly.
I have heard about that. How can we deal with that? Anyway,
it's a value system is collapsed, so we have to really rebuild our
anyway, still on his 100 days, the fact of mending of Nigeria's fractured relationship with the world powers, he's had quite some travels to do. America, invited to Germany, UN and all that. It's looking like there was a turning around. The world is beginning to embrace Nigeria and all that.
It's goodwill. It's goodwill. The Buhari personnel had generated goodwill even before he became president. The world all over had access to the character and profile of Buhari and had formed, opinions based on that character and moral profile that he has. So it's the first time that Nigeria would, the US would invite, and the president would publicly acclaim an African president. I'm saying first time, an African president as a man of integrity and a man who knows what he will do for his people.
That was why all the supports were coming.
That is referral. It is referral.
Yeah, that's referral.
In marketing is referral.
Yeah.
When an authority gives a good testimonial about you.
And such authority.
And such authority as the United States of America's President, Barack Obama. Now, the West would not need to wait for any other testimonial than to relate with you. Because coming from the US, it means that this person is a good person to do business with.
We can do business with them.
And for the first time, the Liaye Act, which is a very restrictive act, and it was actually targeted at Africa and the Southeast, and of course the Southern America, Cambodia, and all that. That's where the Liaye Act was targeted at, so that the America, not even by executive fiat, by law, by parliamentary act, restricted relationship between the U.S. and any country that is seen to be dictatorial or abuse or violate the rights of its people. You know, it's not. They didn't leave the initiative to the executive any longer. Now, when when the president visited the U.S. and made, of course, offer for let's help us.
I don't know what this is about, but it's just they never call when today is talking. But the moment you're talking, they call. I'm going to ask you to help me thoughts again. All right, Jacob. I think calling from Lagos, if I heard correctly. Benin Republic, rather. Jacob, glad to have you join us on the Breakfast Show. Let's have your contribution.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, Jacob. Don't forget to turn down your volume.
My name is Mr. Jacob from Republic of Benin.
Good. Go ahead.
Yeah. Regarding the 100 days in office, I think President Buhari has been doing well. So far, so good, he has been doing well. You see. But my own problem is that I'm talking about this lawmakers. I think this is where we are going to be. We are going to fail because these people, I think, they are the issue that
Jacob,
we are facing seriously. We need to verify these people thoroughly and know more about them, because me, I'm looking at in angle that they are the problem of Nigeria. For these 100 days, let them give the account of the kind of job they have done and how many times they have been in office. If they are spending too much money, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know why Nigerians are not seeing to this angle. Just imagine the kind of the money they insert from Nigeria's account between just 60 days. And that 60 days, they are only attend 15 days sitting for office. This is not normal. So, as far as concerned, they are the Boko Haram that we are having.
All right. The Boko Haram we have. All right, Jacob, that's... Thank you so much. Of course, if I've got to say that. You are honorable Lagos State House Assembly. There's been talk about the fact that I remember a lawyer was saying, okay, calculated, they spend 2 days, go on break and come back and spend 5 days, go on a break, only to take home millions. Somebody saying it's better we have a house where we have people on not contract. How do you what's that word again? Part-time, yes.
Well, without holding brief for the National Assembly, I'm sure what Jacob was saying is about the National Assembly, not about Lagos State Assembly. The fact is that the people refer to plenary when they talk about how many times legislators work or sit in a week or in a month in any given period. Plenary is the general session of assembly or assemblies. The truth is that there are other works to be done by legislature, not just in plenary. There are committee works, there are investigative works, there are petitions to be attended to.
So the time they don't sit in the house.
So when they don't sit in the house, they must be doing those works. No, honestly, really.
They go on almost 30 days away from the house, and is that why they will make the laws?
No, at times it may take like that, because if they have to go and do several things outside the premises or premises of the house, then it's better to adjourn the house.
Do you agree with him?
Well, I want to agree, because I am also conversant with the operations of the legislative arm of government. Like I said, plenary is what we see.
Yes, that's
a gathering of all members of the House or the Senate or the states, But the truth of the matter is, every member of the House belongs to a committee. Sometimes 3 committees. And don't forget that if we are going to, sometimes you will see on in plenary, okay, we refer this to the committee on so. We refer this to the committee on so. That's one. Even in putting together the law, it is a committee that will put the framework together and bring the first reading, as in form of proposal to the plenary. So what that tells you is that a lot of work had gone behind the plenary. So they do a lot of work at the committee level, and you actually have functional committee rooms.
The point is whether what they take home.
No, that's another issue.
That's what Jacob was talking about.
Jacob needs to know that they are also engaged. But again, we know that has also come to the fore now. So much that the president had to direct the Revenue Mobilization Commission to look again into what they are earning, because as far as the president is concerned, it is not only the basic salary that is the issue. How come on the face of it, the average national legislator is not supposed to take home up to a million naira?
Exactly.
That's on the face of it, if you calculate it. But by the time you start talking about all these ones, of course, the president himself was scandalized when the allowances were calculated, And now, I think in the next 2 or 3 weeks, the Revenue Mobilization Commission will
bring it up for us. Gentlemen, I've had fun, you sparing your time to be here. Your final word, just briefly.
My final word on the topic of today, because we're talking about the first 100 days
of Buhari
of the president in office, is to appeal for calm and patience. We need to encourage the president. We need to eulogize him. We are not being sycophantic about it. We are just trying to urge him to do more.
Which areas do you think you should get on with? His ministers are not yet on board. He said September. This is September.
Ministers being on board has not really adversely affected his administration, because really there must be a tenet in place for those people to come and follow. Because by the time you just allow a jamboree, free for all, when there is no definition of rules, but anybody coming in now, I'm sure if Buhari, by the grace of God, when Buhari will spend 8 years in the matter of leadership of Nigeria, it will no longer be a kind of pleasant or kind of opportunistic affair for anybody to be minister in Nigeria anymore.
Good. All right. Not an opportunistic affair for anybody to be minister of Nigeria. If you're going there, you're going there. You know what to do, not just and you have something to follow. All right. Guidelines to follow.
For the first time, we have someone who has the executive president, CEO mentality in power. Up to now, you still have so many numbers of people appointed by the last administration that are supposed to have left with that last administration, but they are still in place. Now that is stability, is stabilization. The normal thing in Nigeria is to
IG is still there.
Wipe everybody out. And you now have problem of replacement. But you had no need. By one, we do a review of the parastatal, do a review of the ministry. The president is properly briefed on the ministry activities by the powerhouse, the PAMSEC, and the directors of the ministry. So it's not even just about handover note. It has a hands-on briefing by the people who run the ministry. You have a hands-on briefing by people who run parastatals and all that. So you have a board-side knowledge of what is happening around you. So by now, if he's going to appoint his ministers, he will be the one that will determine the brief for each ministers and also set targets.
From the brief he's got. That's a good analysis. Thank you so much. I've been speaking with Nia Kinsuju, a journalist, and of course Tunde Braimo, Honorable Tunde Braimo, a member of the Lagos State House of Assembly. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure to be here.